All right, welcome back. This is the first video in updating our WASH program. We've had increases in funding. We have a new team in the field, and what this is trying to do is create then a roadmap as to where we're going to go with our WASH program in the next 12 months. Included in this will be some teaching points that will help Achesa and Garrett actually put together some educational videos which we'll use with the health clubs as well as the community health volunteers and the teacher health champions. We will also open source this. It will be placed on YouTube, so anybody anywhere in the world with internet connectivity can learn hopefully from our successes and also learn from any problems or challenges that we've had. The other thing that it will do, it will lay out what is expected of the WASH team so that when we go to evaluate their performance, they will know the exact objectives of that evaluation. So the first thing I want to begin with is that WASH is the foundation of all health. And that is not well understood. Many people think that nutrition then is the basis of health, but in actual fact it's WASH. We see very frequently children who have access to quality and consistent nutrition that are malnourished. And the reason is that many of them in the developing world have recurrent diarrheal diseases and parasitic diseases. And these then stop the child from properly absorbing the nutrients that are in the food. So that, remember, it's not only eating the food that results in good growth and good nutrition, but the actual absorption. Now, what WASH does basically is separate microorganisms, bacteria, virus, and parasites that are contained in human waste as well as animal waste, and separate them from our water system, our food chain, and that is basically done by washing hands with soap and the use of good latrines. So WASH then extremely important. Now we have two arms to our WASH program. One is our school program, and the second one is the community program. This first video will focus just on the school program. Now, in our school program, we have 4 basic components. We have the treated drinking water component. We have the hand washing with soap component, number 2. Number 3 is the latrine component as well, combined with the menstrual hygiene changing room component, and the 4th one is the health clubs that we have now in our elementary schools and secondary schools. They are all backed up by the teacher health champions, of which we have 2 in each school. This is an extremely important part of our program, and we want to use those teacher health champions as much as we can in our WASH program. So let's start and take them one by one, starting with the water tanks. The water tanks obviously were the first thing that we did. This is about 7 or 8 years old. I had one of my initial Global Health Fellows in Chagorya test water in 22 schools, all tested abnormal for fecal contamination. That's human waste contamination of the water system. And we know that a child drinking fecally contaminated water will get sick. It may not be tomorrow, it may not be next week, but over a year they will have one or multiple episodes of diarrhea that can markedly impact their ability to learn, their ability to grow, as well as causing them a lot of discomfort and pain. So treatment then of our water tanks is critical. We use WaterGuard, which is sodium hypochlorite. And what we need to monitor as far as our water tank program is, number 1, that the Teacher Health Champions are keeping a log of the treatment of our tanks, as well as a log of the cleaning of the tanks. Now, the tanks need to be cleaned at the end of the day. The reason for that is a WaterGuard bottle treats 1,000 liters of water, which is the size of one of our normal tanks in our schools. If it's a half full tank and we refill it, then obviously it's a half bottle. Now, the thing about WaterGuard sodium hypochlorite is that the longer the microorganisms are in contact with the chlorine and the sodium hypochlorite, the better killing effect you get. So if you fill the tanks and treat the tanks as they should be done at the end of the school day, then you'll have 12 hours of contact time with the chlorine to kill the microorganisms. So we need to work with the teachers that they keep the log, that the log is up to date, that the log is legible, and that it has the dates and the amounts of treatment. The students from the health clubs can do the treatment and do the washing of the tanks, as we'll talk about in a second, but it needs to be the teacher that signs that off, and that has to be a teacher health champion. Cleaning then is also important of the water tanks, and the reason is that chlorine will absorb to organic debris within the water. And since some of our schools, at least at certain times of year, have muddy water and other debris in the water, if there is debris at the bottom of the tanks, then the chlorine will tend to be absorbed there and not be free floating in the water to actually kill the microorganisms. So we need to be sure that the tanks are cleaned at least twice a term, once at the beginning of the term and once in the middle of the 3-month term. And again, our monitoring team then will have to watch that very closely and be sure that those logs are being checked and do exist. The other thing is water temperature. We've had some concerns that some of our water tanks, being black tanks, in the afternoon the water becomes too hot. The children do not like to drink that water, and therefore they find other non-treated sources of water in the school, which obviously negates what we're trying to do. So the importance then is to check to be sure that the water is palatable and to be sure that the students are actually drinking it. When the way to do that is to taste the water. If it is uncomfortable to you, it will be uncomfortable to the students. And we may very well have to move to shade these tanks. So direct observation and also discussion with the teacher health champions will tell us if this is a real problem or not. The second then is our hand washing with soap. Now this is extremely important. One of the most important things we've done is not only had treated drinking water in our schools, but also the hand washing with the soap. In Kenya, as in many developing world countries, there is a culture of hand rinsing, not hand washing. That is to wash your hands or rinse your hands with water without using soap. Unfortunately, it's been shown that that is very ineffective as far as removing microorganisms such as bacteria or viruses. So to have clean hands, you have to use soap, which is a polarized molecule which pulls the debris, the dead skin, and the microorganism that are the bacteria and virus that are sticking to the debris and microscopic debris and dead skin on our hands, to pull that up into the water and then wash that away. So soap then is absolutely critical. Now, as a teaching point, if you look at our poorest family, you will find that the woman of the household will take her white dress or her husband's white shirt and will always wash with soap. The reason is that she knows visually that if she takes a visibly dirty white shirt and washes only with water, it will not become clean, and if she uses soap, it will become clean. But that same individual will probably rinse her hands and not use soap because she can't visually see the difference, even though microscopically it is very significant as far as how clean her hands are. Now, we were honored by the Ministry of Education in Kenya to be the first school district in all of Kenya, 12 million students, to have treated drinking water systems and hand washing with soap in all 200 schools, the complete district. That's amazing for a small organization, something that we can be very proud of. The other thing that we can be proud of is the treated drinking water systems and even hand washing systems have a track record in the developing world of not being monitored correctly, not being taken care of and maintained. And although it may start with a lot of excitement, over 2 to 3 years, it will be found that the water tanks will become contaminated. People will stop treating them. They will stop using soap. They will go back to their old habits of rinsing their hands and not washing their hands. And basically, all the investment that was put up front really returns very little. In our case, we not only have monitored and maintained our system is actually doing better now than it was a year and a half ago before we instituted the Teacher Health Champions. The other thing we can be very proud of is that when we started this a number of years ago, we found that soft soap in the community was too expensive for the schools to purchase. And therefore, 99% of the organizations that I've consulted on multiple continents over the last 30 years would have thrown up their hands and said, well, that is the end of the story. We don't have enough money to be able to make soap available to these schools. But Hope Corps, we worked through that problem. We found one of our loanees who had been making soap and selling it in the community. He now makes it within our office, and as you know, we sell it to schools at cost, and that has been extremely effective. Another example of the uniqueness and also the success of our program. So obviously, when we monitor for the logs of the clean treated drinking water, that they've been treated and cleaned properly, we want to be sure that there is always soap with the hand washing tanks. We also want to be sure that we make unannounced visits both with our monitors, our wash monitors, and our community health volunteers who are going to help us in monitoring our program, so that we can be sure that the soap is always there, that it's not just placed there on the days that we come into the school. The other thing that we're going to begin to work with, particularly with the health clubs, is to, and some of this may already be happening, but I have a feeling that we've never really maximized its effectiveness. So we want to install in each school via the Teacher Health Champions a standard operating procedure that any child who goes out to use the toilets must show evidence of washing his or her hands with soap before they can return to the classroom. We'll get back to this when we talk about the health clubs in the schools, as they can be the hand washing monitors, and this has worked effectively in other areas. Okay, so that's hand washing with soap. The third one is latrines, menstrual hygiene, changing rooms associated with hand washing. Now, Steve and our team has looked at this really closely over the last 6 months, and last month when I was in Kenya, I came to the same conclusion that you have, and that is that we want to be the educators of this. We want to educate the management boards, the head teachers, the Teacher Health Champions, the importance of having clean latrines that really respect human dignity. We also want them to be sure that the latrines are functional. So we're going to educate about the importance about this. We're going to focus them on the importance of these things, and we're going to advocate that they take the time, effort, and money to create these facilities within the schools. Now, one thing that we know that the schools don't have, and that is menstrual hygiene changing rooms for girls that allow them then privacy and cleanliness. We don't want to use the latrines for this. We would like to get the schools to build small rooms that have privacy. They can be out by the latrines, but they should have some type of bench. They should be private. They should not be exactly associated with the latrines because the smell can make that very unpleasant. And they need to be associated with some kind of hand washing facility. So I've talked to Steve about this. He'll be working with the team. This is something we're going to advocate and educate about within the school system. So those then are the three major things that we're focusing on as far as water tanks, hand washing with soap, latrines, and menstrual hygiene changing rooms. And those are concrete things that we can see and deal with. So that's going to be extremely important. And as we work on all three of these, it is really important to involve the teacher health champions. Now, we have 2 of them for every school, which means we have 400 teacher health champions, and we really are in the process of taking those teacher health champions and really training them as school-based community health workers. And the next 3 years, 1 year to 3 years of Hope Corps' health program will be involving the teacher health champions more and more. You will see that we will involve them in our First Pass Vision screening program for all the students, and we will be involving them in many different ways. So we want to work with the teacher health champions and make them a part of this program. And this is where our team then, and I would like Steve's help in this, to basically, if you wish, create for them this whole feeling of their finest hour, that we are in the cutting edge of changing how health is then provided to students in Kenya. As you know, there is really no consistent health education in the school system, and we are going to change that, trying to make that health education an integral part of education on in every primary school child. So the last one of the 4, water tanks number 1, hand washing with soap number 2, latrines and menstrual hygiene changing rooms number 3, and the 4th is the health clubs, which may be the most unique, the most revolutionary, and the most important part of our program. And I'm going to address that in the next video, which is WASH video number 2, as it is so important. So I will be back then with WASH number 2.